Hello, my friends. I'm Reverend Rachel, and this is a midweek meditation for the second week of Advent. This week, we're going to talk a little bit more about love, which was our focus on Sunday. And if you were in church and heard the sermon on Sunday, you know that we were talking about the ways in which God's love comes into the world in the form of Jesus, in the incarnation, in ways that are vulnerable and that break through our fear, that break through our desire to build up walls and try to protect ourselves, and really breaks us open to receiving the love of God and the love of each other. One of the most famous passages in the Bible about love is, of course, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It's most commonly read at weddings. I'm sure we've all heard it many times. But the truth is that the Apostle Paul wrote these words not about marriage or about romantic relationships, but about the ways in which we are called to live out the love of God in Christian community, in church. Of course, he was writing to the church in Corinth and trying to help them understand what it means to be in this kind of relationship with other believers in a community. I'm going to read for you just verses 4 through 8 of 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. This is what God's love lived out through us in relationship with each other in Christian community is supposed to look like. It looks like action. It looks like self-restraint. It looks like forgiveness and truth. It looks like humility. I love this time of year because we start to get Christmas cards from people who have been part of our lives for many, many years in some cases. And we got a few in the mail today, and I was reflecting on how many of these Christmas cards come from people that we have known because of our relationship to the church, because of the various communities that we have been a part of. I'm so lucky because I get to receive Christmas cards from people that I've married with the pictures of their cute kids, from colleagues of mine in the conference. We received cards from parishioners from various congregations that I have served as pastor, and cards from people who I got to know through the church, but are not necessarily a part of the church. And this is such a wonderful thing, especially in this year when we feel so disconnected, when we really haven't had a chance to see many of these people in person. But to get a Christmas card and to see their faces and to feel that connection is really priceless this Advent season. But the truth is that if you have been part of a church for any length of time, if you hang around a church long enough, you will know that relationships in church aren't always loving. Sometimes there's conflict and disagreement. Sometimes there's people that just get on our nerves. Sometimes there are broken relationships, and those things can be really, really hard. And when I look back at some of these folks and I think back to these relationships, I know that with some of these people I had conflicts. And I'm so grateful that we were able to extend grace and forgiveness to each other, that we moved beyond it, and now what remains is love. that we have love for each other. This is a really challenging time. It's been a really challenging year. And I think we have to remember that need for grace that we all have. People are carrying a lot. Not everybody is acting as their best selves. And so I think the need for grace in all relationships, family, neighbors, community, church, need a lot of extra love, especially this year. There's a quote that's attributed to Mother Teresa, and I was told that if you're ever quoting Mother Teresa or Dr. Martin Luther King, that you have to be careful because, of course, these people were saints in their own right, and it's pretty hard for regular, ordinary Christians like us to live up to these models. But I think these words of Mother Teresa, well, I think they're pretty spot on for those of us who are regular, ordinary Christians. She writes, "People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway." I hope that you are taking some time this week to reflect on love and the ways in which God's love and the love of community and the love of relationships is sustaining you and holding you in this season. And I hope that if there are places where there is hurt and brokenness, that you will find ways for love to break through and to break open your heart so that you may find healing, freedom, and love. I look forward to being with you this time next week when we get to talk about joy for the third week of Advent. Be well, my friends.